Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Curry, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. I realized that the last episode I made was attached to another episode, so instead of it being published as a separate episode, it's happened to be attached to another one. So that's my bad. But it was one of those big episodes. So I end up going on for at least 15 minutes. And when I go for 15 minutes, you know that I was trying to break down a really big concept. And it's something that I was struggling with for over a few months, and I sort of procrastinated to put that information out there. Felt a bit strange about putting it out there, so I ended up putting it out, and then ended up sort of disguising itself under another episode. So if you go and listen to the last episode, fast forward it for about 10 minutes, and then towards the end of that one, it's going to start immediately, and it's really to do with the war that we're in and how to become a general within that war and have sexual success within your relationship, because most people are suffering because they're not aware that there's a war that's going on, and how different agendas are attacking your family unit as you know it, your relationship as you know it, and we just sort of take part. We're like, stuck in a matrix, as Henry Tate says, and really the moment you unplug out of the matrix and start working on the things that make you a general within that life or within your life, and it's going to really unlock that sexual success. But not just that, unlock a lot of success within all the relationships that you have within your life. So it's very important. I'm going to re-record that episode. I'm going to take this time to gather my thoughts, probably Thursday, maybe Friday, and really structure it in a way, because the way I structured it was more to do with using my family unit and how my family is under attack and how I'm protecting my family in order to have not just sexual success, but success in life as we know it. So it's very powerful episode. When I listened to it back in the weekend, I was happy with some of the things I said, not happy with some of the things I said. Therefore, that's the reason why I'm going to re-record it. So I'm looking forward to doing it again, because some people I've sent it to, they literally this weekend just said it now all makes sense. So, but today we're not going to be talking about that. We're talking about real intimacy, and I've made an episode like this before. And this really, when we're talking about intimacy, most people actually think it's to do with the cuddles, sitting and watching television, the stroking, the telling each other that you love each other. And that's where most people think intimacy is. And really, if you know anything and it's your first time listening to this, intimacy is ugly. And when I say this, usually people go, what do you mean? And that's the reason, because really when you think about intimacy, it's all to do about creating a safe space within your relationship. Now, all this sounds like all this gibberish that you hear from therapists, but just bear with me for a second. When I say creating a safe place, it's not just for you to be able to speak and share who you are, or the other big word people use, being or your authentic self. What that means is that you can express yourself fully without judgment. Now, when people say be authentic self and express yourself, when it comes to men, they focus mainly on being sensitive. So like, be this really sensitive guy that is attached to his emotional, and what do they say? Embrace your feminine side. Don't do that shit. That is bullshit. You don't do that. We're talking about this, we're talking about some of the fears that you have held from childhood, and some of it is trauma, and a lot of it would be rejection, abandonment, and we have all experienced this on some level, whether it be internally within your family or externally when you were with friends. So it could be actually friends that are males that rejected you within a friend group, or it could be females that you were around. So you tried to date somebody and they told you they didn't like you because you got a big nose or something. I remember that actually happened to me, because I was so heartbroken actually when this happened. Just remembered it right now. I had my group of friends and we started talking to this group of girls. So at that time, I just really had no game, but I was around cool guys. We played rugby. So I was around guys that were alpha, and to a certain extent, on the field, I was an alpha, but off the field, when it comes to relationships, I still had this sort of Hollywood type of thinking. So I felt like I needed to be this really, really nice guy in order to get the girl. So anyways, I was doing all this nice guy stuff. And I remember the guys that I actually thought I was much better looking than some of the other guys. The girls ended up doing this chart where they put like handsome, and they put this sort of criteria and started marking all of this, and at the end of those markings I became the lowest. And to be the lowest, that was like soul crushing. I pretended like it didn't matter, but really that was ultimate rejection. And even the girl that was not good looking within that friend group, who everybody was now trying to push me to be a boyfriend with, rejected me. She was like, no, I don't want to be with the guy who's the lowest, because that means that I'm getting the scraps. So out of all my friends, they were dating the other girls, but because I was last, none of the girls wanted to date me. So it became this really, really embarrassing thing. And to be fair, probably that rejection, now that I think of it, that rejection probably was the catalyst of me becoming a pickup artist. So that's why I drove as hard as I did, because most people, when they go and try and become a pickup artist, generally most guys fail. And it's like a 95% failure rate. I can get 100 guys and only 95, and I'm being generous when I say 95% of the guys will quit, because after that rejection, I think that was the worst rejection I could face. So any rejection after that was not as bad. So I was willing to put myself through that rejection in order to get good. That being said, that motivation, even though it turned me to be good at attracting women, it still cut deep, and it started rearing its ugly head from a different thing within my relationship as we grew, because it was an insecurity. And I never dealt with it, and I was afraid to expose it. So, because I think people told me that I looked ugly, I was unattractive. So, if anything that my wife did, even if he was not insinuating that I was ugly, I would take it as ugly, and all bets are off. I'm like, oh, she doesn't even love me. She doesn't, and I would put up this defensive stuff. So the way I act, the way I react, the way I speak, the way I'll shut myself off and really make it that she doesn't hurt me like the people that hurt me before. And the actual issue wasn't because she was being mean to me or it's the fact that we just did not create a safe space within our relationship to actually deal with it. Can you see how that shit actually messes up your relationship? And how that, and you know what, I not even planned it, but it's actually worked out pretty well, because that's exactly what happened to me, and that's how it affected my relationship. So you're probably wondering, what's that got to do with a sexless relationship? It's the behaviors that you're doing in order to hide the true self that actually causes the sexless relationship. Because now you create this barrier. It's a barrier that you create in order for them not to see that part of you. And that's what she feels like she's not connected to. She feels like there's something that's missing. And it becomes very tiring to try and put this facade, or at least this impression, or something, they're putting forward the thing that you think that they might like, which was what I did. And it becomes tiring to me, I can't be my true self. And you have to become your true self as you get older and evolve. But just the other day we had a discussion, but it was more heated. So we're talking about, I think it was something to do with, there was a report about this really, really fat woman who wanted to get an extra seat for free instead of paying for it. And I was saying, oh yeah, I think they should pay for it, because, what you put in your mouth is a choice. I'm a chubby guy who is eating far too many donuts and biscuits. I'm aware of it. And of course, I try and work with my body. I'm now working on exercising and being fit. But that's now my choice that I'm doing that. And I'm dealing with the consequences of what I've put in my mouth. And I was saying to her that people need to take responsibility just like I do. And she was rightly so, like, be more accepting, be more. And it's quite right. But at the same time, she was like, I don't like the fact that you're not so accepting. And and that was her opinion. Said, why is it that you're now changing your opinion? Because before, when I met you, you were more accepting, and why you're not accepting now? And I said, it's because I've grown older, and also as we get older, I now understand that I should be myself. I could easily take her side and make her think that we're on the same side, but if I'm not, I should be prepared to be able to voice my opinion. And as I get older, my opinions might change, and she has to be accepting of it. And like a true champ that she is, she thought about what I said, and she goes, yeah, she accepted my point. And she then ended up suggesting that, yeah, maybe it's not an issue about the people, maybe it's an issue about the actual flight people, that maybe they might make bigger seats or have a section or section them off, which is a compromise between the people that will pay extra, a little bit extra to accommodate these people, and for those people to have a seat. Because she did make a good point. Said, well, if they can't afford and then they have to have one seat, would you like to sit close to one person who's like overspilling on the seat? I was like, oh shit, that's a good point. I don't really want that because they can't afford a second seat. So, but it was a good discussion. And what I'm trying to say here is that I could voice my opinion. It was a safe place to put an opinion without being shamed or anything like that. And most people don't have those kind of discussions that are very awkward, very difficult to have, and that can be maybe even construe you as somebody who's extreme. But again, it's a conversation that we had, and it got a little bit heated. But at the end, we found a compromise that worked for both of us, because nobody was scoring points to be right. It was more of us really putting our point of view, and then we started trying to find ways of making those point of views meet and match, because we're willing to create that safe place to share. Now, this is important, and I know it's probably beyond your relationship to get to that point where you get a safe place, and there's strategies of actually doing it within your relationship, even though it feels like it's gone to an extreme where you cannot bring it back. Because what's going to give you sexual success is the actual ability to confront difficult conversations and creating that safe place to have those difficult conversations, so you can be your true self. Not just you, but her true self. Because sometimes what she might reveal to you might be so devastating and so difficult to understand, but you have to create a safe place. But when I say safe place, you're not going to be able to judge. And I think the best example I've got for this is what's his name again? They call him, it's Caitlyn Jenner, but I forgot his real name. Oh God. Anyway, she spent many years married as a man and had children, and became Olympic athlete, champion. And all of this time in his life, he had this big, massive secret and never felt safe to share who he felt he was. And to be fair, they ended up giving him this safe place to do so, and he did. And now he's living his best life. I hope he is, or she is. And he's living his best life because there was this safe place for him to authentically or be himself. And I'm not saying you should go and be a woman, but what I'm trying to say is that that's the safe place I'm talking about, where you can be yourself. Like, I mean, there's some guys that I've now spoken to that they have an open relationship with their partners because that's what their partners wanted. Now, I'm not saying it's for everyone, by no means, but I'm just saying that that's what it takes. Like, I think that was a few weeks ago, I spoke to a guy whose wife is not capable of having sex. Like he's got a physical illness that's stopping her from doing so. And he needed that connection. And he was surprised that when they had the conversation, she was open for him to have a relationship with somebody that was sexual, to introduce that into their relationship. Now, they had to overcome a few things, but this is what I'm talking about, that it's a difficult conversation to have, but it's something that it now puts it to the plate. It's malleable thing that builds your relationship, because your relationship is malleable. It's something that you can constantly work on to make it to what you want it to be. But you have to be willing to have those conversations and make it a safe place to have those conversations. So I've overgone what I want to do. I usually try and do this in 10 minutes. So thank you very much for listening. If you want to learn more, go to Facebook group, Thriving Tribesmen. We are going to be releasing a free mini course, and the mini course is the 30 days get your sexy back. It's right now with the editors. It is going to be a mini course where you can access day by day certain tasks that you need to be doing in order to have sexual success. So thank you very much. I'll be seeing you soon. Take care.